On July 29, 1944, a notification arrived in Berlin. The order was authorized by the High Command. It was the Iron Cross, Second Class, one of the regime's most recognizable wartime decorations. It was awarded to a spy codenamed Alaric, a man the Führer believed was his most loyal, effective asset inside Great Britain. 5 months later, King George VI of England awarded the same man the Member of the Order of the British Empire. This man holds a distinction unmatched in the annals of espionage, receiving high honors from both sides of World War II. To the Germans, he was Alaric. To the British, he was Garbo. He wasn't a soldier. He was a chicken farmer who hated fascism. And with nothing but a typewriter, a tourist guidebook, and a terrifying imagination, he built an army that didn't exist. He didn't just trick the German High Command, he effectively commanded it. This is the story of the lie that saved the world. In 1941, Juan Pujol García walked into the British embassy in Madrid. He was a Spaniard, balding, unassuming, and completely untrained. He offered to spy on the Nazis. The British laughed him out of the building. They saw a delusional civilian who had watched too many movies. So, Pujol tried a different approach. He walked into the German embassy. He told them he was a fanatical pro-Nazi government official traveling to London on business. He spun a tale of loyalty and access. The Germans believed him immediately. They handed him cash, invisible ink, and a code book. There was just one problem. Pujol had never been to England. He didn't speak English, and he had no way to get there. Instead, he moved to Lisbon, Portugal. He sat in a rented room with a stack of tourist guides, a map of England, and a railway timetable. And from that room, he began to invent a war. Pujol didn't just send reports. He created characters. He told the Germans he had recruited a network of sub-agents inside Britain, a KLM pilot who couriered messages, a disgruntled Welsh nationalist, a censorship official in the Ministry of Information. None of them existed. They were ink on paper. He crafted their personalities. Some were lazy, some were greedy, some were sick. He used these flaws to explain why his intelligence was sometimes late or incorrect. When a fictional agent became a liability, Garbo didn't just fire him. He announced his death, even forcing the Germans to pay a pension to a widow who didn't exist. He created a layer of insulation between himself and the truth. The Germans were captivated. They were receiving a flood of intelligence that confirmed their own biases. Finally, British intelligence intercepted the messages. They realized someone was fooling the Nazis, and they were doing it better than the professionals. They tracked Pujol down in Lisbon and smuggled him to London. He was given the codename Garbo because he was the greatest actor in the world. By 1944, the Allies were preparing for D-Day, the invasion of Europe. Success depended on surprise, but you cannot hide an invasion force of 2 million men. So the Allies decided to hide the target. The plan was called Operation Fortitude. The goal was to convince Hitler that the attack on Normandy was a diversion, a feint to draw German troops away from the real target, Pas-de-Calais. Pas-de-Calais was the logical choice. It was the shortest route across the Channel. It was what the Germans expected. And in intelligence, you don't lie by inventing a new reality. You lie by confirming what the enemy already wants to believe. To sell the lie, they needed an army. The 1st United States Army Group, FUSAG. It was commanded by the one general the Germans feared most, George S. Patton. FUSAG had insignias. It had radio traffic. It had encampments in southeast England, directly across from Calais. But FUSAG had no soldiers. Fortitude was built from rubber tanks, fake radio nets, and false paperwork. But it only worked if a trusted human source confirmed it. That source was Garbo. The deception was industrial in scale. The Allies built hundreds of inflatable rubber tanks. They constructed plywood artillery pieces. From the air, to a German reconnaissance plane, it looked like a massive buildup of armor preparing to strike Calais. But the visual deception was secondary to the radio deception. The Allies filled the airwaves with fake chatter, orders for fuel, requests for winter clothing, complaints about the weather. Garbo's role was to confirm it all. Garbo sent over 500 messages to Madrid in the lead-up to D-Day. He reported seeing the insignia of the U.S. First Army Group. He reported the drunken gossip of soldiers waiting to cross to Calais. He famously reported that a sub-agent had been arrested by the police, shutting down a key line of communication just as the Germans asked for specifics. The Germans swallowed it whole. Why risk a pilot when Alaric is delivering minutes from inside the room? Belief had hardened into fact. June 6, 1944. D-Day. The Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy. This should have been the moment the deception collapsed. The invasion was real. The troops were on the ground. But Garbo had one more card to play. A gamble so risky, it could have destroyed him. At 3 a.m. on June 6th, Garbo radioed his handlers. He claimed he had urgent intelligence, but the German radio operator in Madrid had gone off duty. He was asleep. Garbo sent a furious follow-up message the next morning, berating the Germans for their laziness. "I am disgusted," he wrote. "I cannot work with people who do not take their duty seriously." This outburst established his dominance. It made him seem more committed to the Reich than the Germans themselves. Then, on June 9th, 3 days after the landings, he sent the message that changed history. He told Berlin, "The present attack is a large-scale diversion intended to draw our reserves away from the real target. Normandy," he said, "is a trap." The message reached Hitler's desk. Field Marshal Rommel and Rundstedt were begging for reinforcements. They wanted to move the 15th Army, the powerful reserve force stationed at Calais, down to Normandy to push the Allies back into the sea. Every hour of delay allowed more American tanks to land on the beaches. Rommel knew that if he couldn't strike now, the window would close forever. But Hitler read Garbo's report. It confirmed what he wanted to believe, that the great General Patton would lead the real attack. Garbo wasn't just believed, he was trusted as a system. Hitler issued the order. The 15th Army was to stand fast. They were to wait for an invasion that would never come. For 2 critical months, while the Allies secured their foothold in France, the German 15th Army sat idle 150 miles away. They watched the empty ocean, waiting for rubber tanks and plywood guns. Garbo had paralyzed an entire army group with a lie. If the 15th Army moved, the lie dies, and the invasion dies with it. The war ended. The 1,000-year Reich collapsed. But Garbo's legend didn't. The Germans never realized they had been played. They paid him the equivalent of hundreds of thousands today. They awarded him the Iron Cross by radio. In 1949, with the Cold War heating up, Juan Pujol García knew he was a man with too many secrets. He feared reprisals from surviving Nazis. So, with the help of MI5, he faked his own death. He traveled to Angola to establish a paper trail, then died of malaria. He moved to Venezuela. He opened a bookstore and a gift shop. For 36 years, the world believed the greatest spy of World War II was dead. He lived quietly, anonymous, selling postcards to tourists, while historians wrote books wondering who Garbo really was. In 1984, a British author named Nigel West tracked him down. The meeting was surreal. The man who had tricked Hitler was now a balding, spectacles-wearing grandfather in South America. He returned to London for the 40th anniversary of D-Day. He was taken to the beaches of Normandy. He walked among the graves of the men who had died there. For the first time, he saw the reality of the war he had fought on paper. He wept. Prince Philip greeted him at Buckingham Palace. They finally presented him with his MBE, the medal he had been awarded in secret 40 years prior. But the irony remained. The medal in his drawer in Venezuela, the Iron Cross, was technically just as valid. Operation Fortitude teaches us a dangerous lesson about intelligence. The Germans didn't fail because they lacked information. They failed because they had too much of it. Garbo succeeded because he understood that leaders don't want the truth. They want confirmation. If you tell a leader what he expects to hear, he will not check your sources. He will not audit your network. He will hand you the keys to his kingdom. Hitler's arrogance was the encryption key Garbo used to hack the Wehrmacht. Juan Pujol García died for real in 1988, but his network, the pilot, the Welshman, the soldiers of the 1st U.S. Army Group, they never died. Because you cannot kill a ghost.